Terrance Afer-Anderson, and this is BioRhythms. It's been a while since you guys seen us, haven't it? I am so delighted to be back on the air and to bring you incredible interviews with incredible people. And we're starting off with someone that is a history maker, and her name is Patricia Turner, who happens to be my cousin. And the reason that we're talking with Patricia is because of something that she did. Oftentimes, when we talk about history, we talk about people that are in fact themselves history, people that have passed on. It is a rare opportunity to have an opportunity to talk with someone who has made history and is still amongst us. And that is, again, Patricia Turner. Patricia was one of the Norfolk 17, and she's going to tell us all about that. Welcome to BioRhythms.
Well, thank you so much for having me, cuz.
Yeah, how about it? It's great to start again with you. But for those of the people, the viewers that don't know you, and for me to get a little bit more background about my own cousin, let's start with where you were born and your childhood and so forth. Where were you born?
Oh, I was born in Norfolk on C Avenue, and I had a brother that was also born on C Avenue who did integration with me. Then by the time I had a third brother, when I was about 3, my parents they moved to the Navy housing on Matthew Henson Street. Then I had 2 sisters added to the 2 brothers.
Okay.
And we traveled with our dad. When I had just the 2 brothers, we traveled to Panama, we traveled to Connecticut. When my 2 sisters came along, Mom said, "This is it. I can't travel anymore with these 5 children." So my dad did the travel and we stayed home.
Now, you mentioned Matthew Henson Street. That
Yes.
was in Titustown?
In Titustown.
Okay, and a lot of people are not aware who Matthew Henson was. And as much as we are talking about history, what can you tell us about Matthew Henson? You remember?
Not very much. I think he was a sailor, but that's about all I know.
Matthew Henson was the first African American to reach the North Pole.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah,
well,
it's
I
an
had
incredible
the
story.
honor of living on his street.
Well, you see, it was perfect. You were being groomed then to make history.
Oh, yes, without even knowing it.
All right, so you went from C Avenue in Huntersville, and again, you know, my grandparents, as you well know, spent a lot of time, had a big house on C and O'Keefe. Then you went to Titustown, and from Titustown you went to
Oakwood Elementary in the Northview section, which was called Oakwood at that time. It's still called Oakwood, but it's really the Northview section. My parents bought their home where my mom still resides today at 96 in the same home. From there, I even had another sister. 11 years after the knee baby, what we call the one before the baby, the knee baby.
I'm the knee baby in my family.
Knee baby,
oh, yeah.
See? But a lot of people today don't even know what a knee baby is. It means someone else came after them. But so I was attending Titustown 1st and 2nd grade. Then went on to Oakwood for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade.
Okay, all right.
Then things began to happen.
What do you mean things began to happen? Talk to us. Let us know what your experience was like.
It was, I went to Ruffner, and at first I started out singing in the choir.
At Ruffner?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I was happy to sing in the choir, but I couldn't sing. So the choir director finally put me out because not only could I not sing, I wouldn't even be quiet enough to get the songs out. So he put me out.
I went to Ruffner for a year.
You did?
Oh, I sure did.
Okay, yeah. I went there 1 year also. But after he put me out the choir, I was able to play in the band.
Okay.
And I was good. I played first chair clarinet.
Ah.
I was very good. At least I thought I was, and the band director thought I was. There are even pictures around, and I have some of those old pictures of me standing there with my clarinet. But after that, everything went kind of down. And in a way, it went up. You see, the first year, all the black children in the city of Norfolk were tested, but they didn't know that this was a different type of test, because when you're in school, you get tested anyway. And after they were all tested, the NAACP came in and they chose some children.
No, excuse me, but all these school children in the city of Norfolk were tested, or just the black kids?
Just the black kids were tested. Okay.
And the tests were administered by the city of Norfolk?
They were measured, yes.
Okay.
I would say so, because these tests were getting ready for integration. You see, this is 1958, 4 years after Brown versus Board of Education.
Okay.
So integration was going to start, whether anyone wanted it or not.
Right.
So the children had to be prepared.
Okay.
And they wanted to make sure that they were where they should be in different levels, or if they needed to be higher raised to a level or lower raised to a level, or whatever they needed.
Right.
So when the NAACP came in, they had decided, well, they're going to choose some of these children to start the integration process. But they didn't come to my house. They said that we were military. Daddy was in the Navy. Mom was at home. And they said that, well, we wouldn't be as smart, because one of two things was going to happen. We were military brats who moved around, so we didn't get the education that needed.
Boy, were they mistaken.
They were wrong. They were very wrong.
Right.
But so they didn't choose us, but they didn't know my mom. You see, my mom having the 5 of us, and she didn't drive. It would have been easier for her to walk to the school if something happened than for her to try to get 2 buses when one of her children were ill, when she had children at home.
Right, right.
So we come from a time when you listen to your parents.
Sure, sure.
So Mom and Dad would ask us if we wanted to do something, like if we wanted to do dress, or like I wanted to play the clarinet. They always said, if you want to do this, I'm going to save up and I'm going to get this for you. And you're going to wear it, or you're going to play it, or you're going to use it. And that's just the way it is. So we said yes, we knew what it meant. I had to ride 2 buses to get to Ruffner. One day I missed the bus. There were no cell phones in this time.
Right.
The telephones were on the corner, and you had to put a dime in it. You could make a call.
Right.
I didn't have a dime, so that means I couldn't call Mom. She had no idea where I was. She was nervous. She didn't know if she should go walking, looking for me, or what. Luckily, a bus came along. I'll say 30 to 40 minutes later, I was able to make connections and get the bus. She was really, really afraid. So when she asked me if I'd rather walk to school, of course I said yes, not knowing it would take me 6 months to walk 1.3 miles.
Wow. I want to talk a little bit more about that experience and what happened at the end of the day, but I also want to get back and talk about the testing, because those tests sound like they were very instrumental, maybe not even as valuable, though, as NAACP thought. But right now we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have that conversation. All right?
Okay.
We're going to see you guys on the other side of the break. Thank you for watching us. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to BioRhythms. I can't wait to get into this conversation, to continue this conversation with my cousin, Patricia Turner. Okay, so when we ended the last segment, you were talking about an experience where you had gone to Ruffner, you had to catch the bus, and you missed the bus. Okay, tell us what happened that day. Okay,
when I got home, I really don't remember from there. What I do remember is Dad asking us if we'd rather walk to school. Okay. And of course I preferred to walk than to take those 2 buses and get scared again. But I did not know that it would take that 6 months to walk the 1.3 miles. You see,
6 months?
6 months to walk 1.3 miles to school.
What do you mean 6 months?
Well,
you did that for 6 months?
No, the schools were closed.
Okay,
they were closed.
All right, tell us about that now.
Yes.
Though, when did they close the schools?
Okay, what happened is that they started testing. Right. And at first there were 151 applicants. And the NAACP had chosen some of them. But I can't say that I was smarter than them. It just so happened that Some of them didn't show up on time. Some of them didn't show up at all for the other testing.
So that there were 151 applicants to be those that would integrate the school system. Okay.
And it began to dwindle down because, as I said, some didn't show up.
Right.
Some were late and the door was closed.
Right.
Or different things happened.
Right.
So it dwindled down to about half of that. They took the first test, which means that you're taking a test for the grade you're entering into.
Right.
So I had to take an 8th grade test.
But you weren't aware at that time that it was tests for you to be screened as one of those?
We did know then.
You did know?
We did know.
Okay.
We did know. But it was about half of them. And after the first test, kind of cut down into half for different reasons again.
Right.
So now you're still being tested. So we tested again. I was tested for the 9th grade. Then we were tested for the 10th grade. Now the court started. The NAACP sent in lawyers to stop this testing. Judge Hoffman said, we're not going to test these young children anymore.
Right.
He stopped the testing. Well, then you had to go to a psychiatrist.
Okay, let me stop you here. So you were tested for the 8th grade. Okay.
Tested for the 9th grade.
All right. Now, when you were tested for the 8th grade, that was when you went to, after that test, that was when you went to Norview?
No.
Okay. When did you start, become one of the number 17?
I had to take the 8th grade, 9th grade, and 10th grade tests.
Okay.
I had to go to psychiatrists.
Okay.
I had to go to court.
Okay.
I had to go to the school board.
All of this was a screening
process.
process.
All of this is screening process.
Right.
Okay. When Judge Hoffman stopped the testing, he stopped everything. He said, we're not going to bother these children anymore. He called 17 names by test scores. He didn't know who he was calling. He was calling by test scores.
I see.
My name was called 3rd. My
Wow.
brother's name was called 4th. And then he stopped at 17. No one knows why he stopped at 17.
Interesting.
The late Andrew Heidelberg said he thought that it was because of localities that were across the United States that were involved in the integration process. But no one really knows why, because we're quite sure that there were other children just as smart as we were, but he stopped at 17.
Okay.
He assigned us to our schools.
Right.
I was assigned to Norfolk Junior High.
Okay, and that was for the 8th grade?
8th grade.
Okay, so they tested you each time from the 8th grade and then again in the 9th grade?
No.
Okay.
I took all those tests at one time.
Wow.
Okay, we took all those tests at one time because they were trying to eliminate integration altogether.
Right.
So each one of us was being tested 3 times, one for the grade we're going in, for the next grade, for the next grade, to eliminate the children that were going to be integrated. So I took all those tests at the same time.
So being chosen as number 3, you were the only African-American kid to go to Norview Junior High School?
8th grade.
8th grade?
8th grade.
Okay.
Skip, my brother James Jr., Claudia Wellington, Edward Jordan, and LaVera Forbes. They were in the 7th grade together.
Okay. I got you.
They had already taken 7th, 8th, 9th grade tests to go into the 7th grade. But I was the only one for the 8th grade for Northview Junior High.
What was that like, being the only African American kid in a school in the 8th grade? What was that experience like?
It made me an introvert. I learned how to be quiet. I learned how to sit in the front. I learned how to raise my hand even though no one asked me the questions. You see, we went to school at First Baptist Butte Street from September to February when they opened the schools. That was where we went to school.
But you went to First Baptist Butte Street during massive resistance when they closed
all the schools down. Mrs. Vivian Mason put up her own money to send us to school.
And that was the school
we had
at
nowhere
First
to go.
Baptist.
And that was why we went to school in the basement of First Baptist Butte Street for those few months.
So you're sitting in the classroom and you're the only black kid in the classroom. How did the other kids treat you?
Like I was
Let's just be very real.
Like I was a cockroach. And I say a cockroach because I'm scared of mice. A cockroach, if you see one, you're either going to do one or 2 things. You're going to get a piece of paper and squish it, or you're going to stomp on it with your foot. This is what they wanted to do to me.
What kind of things did they do to you?
They spit on me, they spit in my face, they pulled my hair, I even had my hair clipped. They put gum in my hair. They called me names all day long. They knocked the books out of my hands. They pushed me down the steps. But they didn't know any better, because this was the way that they were taught, that they were supposed to look at blacks. You see, to them, a black female was supposed to do one or two things: be their maid or be their cook. I wasn't supposed to be in the classroom with them, and I surely wasn't supposed to be smarter than they were. Because you see, I had passed 10th grade tests to go to 8th grade.
Right.
So I was prepared. They were just 8th grade students, normal students, but they had been taught to hate me for the color of my skin.
And you were, in a lot of instances, much farther along than they were educationally. Okay. Well, we're going to talk some more about that whole experience, and I'm appreciating you taking the time to talk to us about it, because it is important for kids nowadays to know those people, those pioneers that made it possible for them to go to a public school. So we're going to continue this conversation on the other side of the break. Okay? We're going to see you guys again in just a few. Stay tuned. This is important information. We'll see you on the other side of the break. So, these kids were doing all of these things to you. Did you ever want to retaliate? How did you handle all of that? What was your reaction?
We were taught at First Baptist Church how to, I always say we were sort of brainwashed like a soldier going into battle, that
you were.
You do this and you do that. You always sit in the front. You walk with your shoulder against the wall. You keep your head up, and those things we were taught. You pray, and God will carry you through. And this is what we learned. And you still have to remember, we were children.
Right.
I was only 13 years old. I didn't think about the fact that I was carrying the nation on my back. It didn't cross my mind at that time. I was still to a point where I was still playing with Barbie dolls when I got home. It was really strange to me, because Daddy being in the Navy, we had played with some of those same children that were in the white school. And we definitely played with the children in the black school who lived in our neighborhoods.
Okay, and I want to talk about the relationship with those black kids as well. But those kids, the white kids that you were playing with, because of your living environment, they're also being Navy kids. Did they treat you differently at school than they would treat you in a neighborhood?
Yes, because when we went to the base, of course, everyone played and everyone had a good time, and everyone was friendly. But the Navy kids didn't do anything to us, but they walked away from us and didn't help us.
Right.
Okay, because they were afraid.
They were afraid too.
They were afraid. Whatever was happening to us, if they had come over to help us, it would have been worse for them. So they just walked away.
That whole experience, thank God to people like Vivian Mason, who had the vision to provide you guys with the type of training, knowing what you were going to face. And they provided you that training to deal with the white school kids that had no idea themselves, the immense nature of what was going on. But did they talk to you about how other black kids might relate, how they might react to you?
No, they didn't let us know about that. I don't think they knew themselves.
And what was that experience like?
When we came home, I guess we thought that once we crossed the imaginary line where the whites lived and the blacks lived, we thought we were safe. We felt a feeling of relief, but it was worse than that, because all day long at school we were called nigger. But when we crossed that line, then we were called white girl or white boy, and they walked away from us. Children that we had just played with ignored us. Even as recently as 2 years ago, I saw someone who was trying to tell me I was at Booker T. I've never seen the inside of the new. I've seen the new inside,
right.
but the old one I never seen the inside of. And they were trying to convince me I was in their class. Finally, I said, "Thank you. I couldn't have been in your class. I never went to Booker T." And they looked me directly in my face and said, "Oh yeah, you were one of those traitors." And he was black just like me. They don't realize the pain or the hurt that puts on you.
And you were getting that from both ends. You were getting
Both
that
ends.
from the white kids. You were getting that from the black kids. How did that whole experience? You talked about being an introvert, but you're a PhD. You have your PhD now. So despite all of those challenges, you managed to get an advanced degree. How did that whole thing, in terms of a positive way, how did it impact you? What did it give you?
Well, what happened is that I first became a nurse, and I love people, so I became a nurse. But I've always loved mathematics. So when I came home from being divorced and other life trips, I went to Norfolk State and finished in 3 years cum laude, BS in mathematics. Then I went to Old Dominion and received my master's in mathematics education. Then I was taking graduate classes at the College of William and Mary for my doctorate. And one day, the president of ODU called me and he says, "Oh, I see you're working very hard." He says, "Well, I have something to give you this December." And I said, "What is that?" He said, "Well, you can keep working on what you're working on, but I've never heard of someone being called doctor. I'm going to give you your doctorate in December." And I said, "Oh my goodness," I was so excited and so happy. It was a hard drive to the College of William and Mary. During all of that time, that's when I finally grew up, and I wonder if I'm grown up now. It took a long time to get to be a teenager. I don't think I was a teenager until I was almost 30. You see, I never...
Because you were robbed. Yeah.
Totally stripped of those years. I wasn't allowed to go to the prom. I wasn't allowed to... I played field hockey at Norview, but none of the schools would play if they bought me, so Norview gave me all the trophies that my team earned, but I couldn't go and play. I was totally stripped of my teenage years. I never had a boyfriend because nobody wanted to be my boyfriend. So I really didn't start living until mid-20s. And you grow up to be a person that maybe you would never have been. But I've been asked often, even though I missed so many years, would I do it again?
And you?
For the children of today, you can spit in my face. You can knock me down the steps. You can turn your back when I walk down the street. I do it over and over again because they need to understand. They can't walk in my shoes, but they can walk up my leg and be better than I am.
You know, you have no idea how proud I am to call you blood, to call you family. We talked that our grandfathers were brothers. That means so much to me, you know. I want to give you an opportunity to say the last word, and I'd like for you to, in just a couple of seconds here, deliver a message to the children enrolled in school today, black and white. You know, what would you say to them about that whole experience?
My experience was not fun. It was not a game. The only thing that I would ask you to do is to take education serious. If you're educated, you can climb to the highest mountain. Keep your hand in God's hand or whoever supreme being you want to believe in, and realize the world is open for you. It's already been proven you can be president of the United States.
And on that, my dear, we have to close. Because it was so great to have you on BioRhythms, particularly on the first show. We're coming back to the air. Thank you so very much. And we want to thank you for joining us today for this edition of BioRhythms. We're so very glad to be back. We'll see you in the next step, in the next time, in the next day, in the future. Thank you so very much.